Hi, it's Chris Town out and about here. Originally today, Easter Saturday 2024, I was going to go down to Hawkhurst and do a walk from Hawkhurst to Paddock Wood. But as I haven't been perfectly healthy in the sense that I've had a bad cold for weeks on end and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to pan out, the weather, I decided to go and buy some records. I started off in the Oxfam shop. And I thought I'd just share some of the items I bought with you. As you can see, the first item up is The Lonely Bull, which is the debut album from Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Now, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass are one of these groups that you can always find their albums for £1 or something in the charity shop. I particularly like Tijuana Taxi, which isn't on here, but this was the very first album they ever produced, and it's got The Lonely Bull, Mexico, Never on a Sunday, Limbo Rock, Crawfish, and various other tracks on it. So I'm going to give that a listen. And it's also got the Joe Beam Bossa Nova Desafinado on it, which, as you may or may not know, was made into a big record by Charlie Bird and Stan Getz in 1964. So that's the first one. Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, The Lonely Bull. Right, so initially I only wanted to buy one album and one single, but as usual I got carried away, and the second album is the Nolans, and the album is called All Together, and it's a greatest hits compilation from their period when they were on Epic Records. It's got all the singles on it: I'm in the Mood for Dancing, Attention to Me, Don't Love Me Too Hard, Gotta Pull Myself Together, Don't Make Waves, their version of Ava's Thank You for the Music, and you've also got Chemistry on there, Who's Gonna Rock You, and Spirit, Body and Soul. So they had quite a few hits in the 80s, the Nolans, when they went down to a five-piece from, was it Six Sisters originally? Or no, I think it went down to four, and then I think Colleen joined, and that made it five again. So that's the second one, the Nolans, and it's called All Together, and it's their greatest hits from the early 80s. And now on to Peter Skellern. I bought the Peter Skellern's Greatest Hits recently, which has got songs like You're a Lady and Hold On to Love, which were his two big hits. And I found this, and it was it's in mint condition, and it's from the period after Decca when he signed for Mercury Records. And this is called A String of Pearls, and it's got things like The Clouds Will Soon Roll By, All or Nothing at All, They All Laugh. So you can see what it is. It's a sort of songs associated with Irving Berlin and others. I see Stormy Weather's on there. So I'm really looking forward to that. He had quite a contract with Decca Records with Mercury Records, which lasted quite a few years. And I'm looking forward to hearing that. Right, the next one I picked up was a comedy record, because I like things to be very... I'm not going for the usual buying the rock albums, though I do buy rock albums, you'll see later. I like an eclectic mix of stuff, and what you will see here is the debonair Jack Buchanan. Now, Buchanan was an actor, and for those of you who remember Dad's Army, the film producer said, or the lady said, not the film producer, the makeup lady, costume lady, said that he looked like Jack Buchanan, and Mannering didn't like the fact that he looked like Jack Buchanan. And as you can see, Jack Buchanan was a tall man. He was a film actor, and he was in films in the 30s. And this album, which is on Music for Pleasure, I don't know when it was released. It's called The Debonair Jack Buchanan. And it has songs from movies. Some movies I don't even know they still exist as movies. I mean, they're probably all British movies, or they may not be, I don't know. But you've got Goodnight Vienna from the film Goodnight Vienna, recorded in 1932, which is with an orchestra. The London Hippodrome Orchestra, conducted by Harry Perrett, from 1931, from Stand Up and Sing, which may be a stage show, I'm not sure. But anyway, Who Do You Think You Are? And A Mother Came Too. Obviously a comedy singer, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that. Now, the next one is by The Sound of Strings, and it's Volume 4, and it's the Cambridge Strings, and it's Blues Strings. And I paid 99p for the reason I got this. And the reason I got this was because of the Decca record label, and the full frequency stereophonic sound, which was a 60s feature of Decca Records. And those records are pretty good pressings, and They've got a very good sound if you play it on a stereo. There's lots of stuff on here. Into Each Life, Some Rain Must Fall, Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now, I'll Never Smile Again, A Cottage for Sale, Harbour Lights, Baby Won't You Please Come Home. So that's a nice mixture, and I'm looking forward to that. And I also intend to put one track of that up as a separate video, so look out for that. That is the Blue Strings, the Cambridge Strings on Decca Records. Right, as you know, if you know my musical taste, you know I like jazz and big band. And the next one is on Savile Records, and it's Roy Fox and his band. It says at the Kit Kat restaurant in 1933. I don't know whether these are live recordings or not, but they were recorded on various dates. And Harry Gold was a member of that band. Ivan Morantz played guitar. And yeah, so that was that band, and you've got songs on there. Look what you've done. The Tree Was a Tree, Night After Night, Happy and Contented, and on side 2, My Hat's on the Side of My Head, No Funny Business, That's What Life Is Made Of, This Is Romance, Somebody Stole My Girl, and others. Right. And also, I mentioned about Decca Records. Well, Decca Records had a thing called Phase 4 stereo in I think it was in the 60s and 70s. And these were very superior sounding albums. I've got a classical one which didn't have the outside cover with it. And these are really fantastic, thick vinyl. And mind you, the inner bag looks a bit strange there, but they are really good, thick vinyls. And you do really get a good sound out of a decent stereo system on that. Then I got the Glenn Miller Story. It's on the Choral label. The Glenn Miller Story was from 1959, if I remember correctly, the film soundtrack. And it also had Louis Armstrong on there. So you've got a lot of Glenn Miller hits: Moonlight Serenade, Tuxedo Junction, St. Louis Blues, In the Mood, String of Pearls, Pennsylvania 65000, and American Patrol. And then you've got 2 tracks by Louis Armstrong's All Stars, because they were featured in that film. And look out for the version of Basin Street Blues, which I'm going to put up on a separate video. Right, and the next one is Studio 2 Stereo, which is EMI Columbia. I'm not sure if that was fantastic stereo or not. I've never heard of this artist before. He's Pepe Jaramillo, and he's a pianist. And it says Pepe on the Continent, and it's Pepe Jaramillo and his Latin rhythm section, Latin American rhythm. The musical direction is by Jeff Love, and you've got Habanera on here, you've got Mountains of Switzerland, the Third Man theme, Zorba's Dance, Tulips from Amsterdam, The Poor People of Paris, Oh Mine Papa, Portuguese Washerwomen, and Swedish Rhapsody, and Wonderful Copenhagen. So I'm really looking forward to that. And right, now we're going to move on to a record label which is called Avenue Records. And I need to move things around slightly, because this is one of those... let me tell you a little story. Back in 1977, when I was buying the Iggy Pop albums, when I got into punk, I got the first 2 on Elektra Records. I think one I had to buy down in Margate. I don't know what I did with the other one. If I had it in Mason or ordered it, what happened. And the third one I wanted was Raw Power, which was on a label called CBS Embassy. Now, the history of Embassy goes back to records that were sold exclusively through Woolworths. There was loads of musicians who made copy versions of the hits of the day on this label, Embassy Records. In fact, I've got a few of those now on 7-inch singles. I've got the cover of Telstar that was made. Well, the record label Avenue Records was based in Chingford in London, and was a similar type of thing. It was led by a man called Alan Caddy, who was a member of first Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, and then the Tornadoes. He died in 1980, but he was in this involved in this label called Avenue Records, and they made cover versions of hit singles of the day, usually in EP format, which I'll get to onto that single in a minute. But Alan Caddy was behind this record label, which seems to have folded in about 1973, 1974. Looking into it a bit more, rumour says that Elton John was featured on some of the very early EPs, although I can't find proof of that. But definitely when I was doing a trawl through Google and through YouTube, I found that one of the vocalists involved in these recordings, or some of these recordings, was David Byron, who, as you know, later went on to be the singer with, and I don't think I've started this at